Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from artplace.ca. In today's video lesson, I thought I would do another little painting study on how to paint water, but this time we're only going to use fan brushes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the part of it being set up with a flat brush, which is, now you can check the other painting study that I did for the typical way to paint, one way to paint water, calm water with some motion, and then I'm going to show you the part of it, and then I'll do the rest with the fan brush. So what I've done, I've done some prep work. So what I did is on this surface, I'm using the Royal canvas paper, which has had a coat of gesso applied to it. Now I use the Americana premium white gesso thinned with a little bit of water, and I put a whole coat on it, just put it on. And then I let it dry, and I do a whole bunch of these at once, and I just let it dry. And this thing that you see here, that's just the easel showing through. When you do your painting studies, prep your surfaces ahead of time. That way you're not having to lose any creativity doing the prep work. So what I've done is I have a whole bunch of these already prepared. The only thing I did is the front. You should do front and back, that way you can use both sides. Okay, so gesso, then use the brush, apply it, let it dry. And then we're going to, then basically just mounted it on my easel, and I have, in that prepping video, I also show how I do all this. Gray canvas paper, the paint is over here on the glass palette, which is too shiny for camera, so I'm going to pull my paint up here. And for the paints, I'm going to be using the DecoArt Premium Acrylics, and I'm using a limited palette with the addition of phthalo blue. So using phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, quinacridone violet, Hansa yellow light, burnt sienna, and titanium white. Now the only difference is if you're using traditions, use permanent alizarin crimson instead of quinacridone violet. So limited palette, very limited colors, and you can even omit, you could omit phthalo blue out of this. I like the coolness of some of the water. All right, so typically what I've done is basically want to wet the surface. And to do that, I mean, if you're watching this video, it's very likely you have some type of flat brush. So using a fan brush for this is pointless, because the fan brushes, you know, if you can use something like that, it'll take you forever. Okay, so let's just get the surface wet. And I'm just using the paint that's in my palette, which has a little bit of blue in it, only because it's contaminated. And you can use extender if you want. I want a good amount of gesso on here because I want the surface to be wet. Now, what I don't want that. I don't want that. If you happen to have water that runs down, just take a paper towel. Don't rub, just put it on, pat it, lift it up, and then blotch your brush. Okay, so what you want is a damp surface, not a wet surface. I can wipe it on here though. Okay, so, and you can use gesso if you want as well. You don't have to use titanium white, you can use gesso. Gesso has more of a matte finish, where the acrylics usually have a satin finish. Now you can add matte medium to it to matte it down. That's no big deal. Okay, then from there, then what I would do, okay, when typically painting this, I would then go to, let's say, I'll just pick up ultramarine blue, and to paint the water, I would come in and I would do this, okay, and do my X strokes, and you know, bring that down, and so on and so on. Using a fan brush, I'm going to dampen the fan brush with a bit of water. I can do the same thing. Now what's happening is that although I put titanium white on here, the surface is still pretty dry. I'm going to mist with a little bit of water. This will take longer, but some of you have all these brushes and you don't know what to do with them. So I just dampen my brush a bit more. But you can see that it really makes some interesting shapes. I can use it this way. and then turn it. Now, acrylics, now what you don't want, see how you've got a pattern here and a pattern here? This actually works out well. I do this, and then I do this for a wave. But you need to blend that out. So that doing like large waves, that's beyond the scope of this video. But I'm just showing you how to paint basic calm water with just a little bit of movement. And all you're doing is doing that. Now, as I start feeling the paint it's not at the tacky point, but I do feel a bit of drag. I'm just adding a little bit of water. You can add medium to this. Now, if you use the DecoArt Premium Medium, this one here, whoops, your painting will take probably about 40 minutes to dry. So for all you oil painters out there, so this makes all the lines and this does all the blending. Now you can see how long this is taking because the brush is so small. It doesn't cover a large area. So I'm going to dampen my brush into a bit more water. Now I'm going to go into a little bit of phthalo blue. A bit more phthalo blue. Makes it much cooler. Let's take a little bit of yellow in there as well. Let's get some green going. So this way and then this way. And doing the wide X strokes like this, then brushing it out gives you some really nice motion. But you can see sometimes, so if I just keep doing this, that it does eventually blend itself out. So just come in with more paint or let it dry. And then do something else. Now this, see all these lines? You've got to blend those out. You can't leave them like that. Unless you're purposely doing that. But the fan brush, I mean, if you got it, I wouldn't go out and just buy a fan brush for this purpose unless you really like the technique. If you got it in the kit or or it was given to you, then give it a try to do this. I mean, there's your water. It's done. Not for me, though. I want to make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to, whoops. I just got paint on my brush. So I'm going to go into, I'm going to rinse my brush a bit. I'm going to go back into Ultramarine blue, a little bit of Quinacridone violet, which will make it a bit more purple, and a speck of burnt sienna. Have no idea what color that is, so we know go into white. That's not gray enough. I'm going to load a bit more burnt sienna. I really want to gray that down. A bit more paint. There we go. So with that, now look how much paint is loaded on there. I can come in here and just brush it out, brush it out, brush it out. If you paint thin, your paint's going to dry very, very quickly. There is drag. There is drag happening. So, mist. Not a spray bottle. You want a misting bottle. Fine, fine mist. And those you can usually get like for hairspray and stuff like that. Just really clean it out well. If you can buy them, that's even better because usually they're made. These little misting bottles that I'm using. These ones here I picked up. Where did I pick those up? I think I picked those up at the dollar store. And they're usually the worst because, the ones that I've been getting have been terrible. Okay, see that? You can see there's a nice wave happening here. I'm going to do a leather light mist. Now I'm going to go into a little bit more ultramarine blue, a little bit more alizarin crimson. Let's darken this stuff up here a little bit more. And when you're doing the mist, you don't want the paint to run, because if the paint runs, then you're going to lose all this beautiful detail. And because this brush is so thin, you want to rinse it occasionally so the paint doesn't dry out. Now see, I've got some dark patches here. To me, I like that. You can just easily just brush that out. I happen to like that. So let's say you've got some really nice ripples in there. Let's really make these. Let's make these really dark, or let's make these too detailed. What do you do with something like that? Rinse your brush and go back over it. You can use a mop brush. I like my SableTek for this. Dry. The Sable brush, think of it like a glorified mop brush. I absolutely love this brush. I only use these fan brushes for blending. Look how beautiful that is. Okay. Now, can you paint with this? Sure you can. Ultramarine blue. But look how easier the blending is. And I find that, let me take a little bit of phthalo blue right on the dirty brush. I find that with the SableTek, they do remove some of the excess paint, but your painting dries faster. Let's get a little bit more blending happening here. Okay, ultramarine blue. Let's go this way. Remember, this is calm water, just a little bit of motion. And we're just going to come back here, lightly blend that out. Water looks, well, the way that I like when water's painted, when it's got multiple layers of color. And I'm not painting the color in the same spot over and over and over again. I'm painting it in different areas to get all that layering. Now, in a typical painting, what you're going to get is you're going to have your colors be warmer as you come forward and your colors cooler as you go back. This is a painting study of water. So you're going to use your reference material, whether it's a live painting or your photograph, you're going to use that as your reference. Look how beautiful that is. Put it on and then blend it. Now, Mia barked. I typically would stop, calm her down, but I can't because this paint is now at a perfect consistency, so I'm not going to stop. If I were to stop to go and see what she's barking at, this paint's going to dry and I'm going to lose the momentum. There we go. It's the landscapers outside she's barking at. There we go. So calm water, just enough detail. Now, what happens if we want to turn around, we want to make a lighter patch in there? So let's go back. Let me just put that brush in water. Let's go back. And I'm going to use my normal. Now, some of you may say, well, I don't have the good brushes that you do. You know, let's say you have these brushes. You can use these. Keep in mind, these brushes that come, these are for absolute beginners. They're fine to get started, but if you're at this stage of doing painting studies, use good brushes. Invest in, I mean, the brushes are not terribly expensive. If you take care of them, they'll last you a long time. So I wet my fan brush, but look what happened. See all the bristles there? Because there's water. So you can get another fan brush, or I'm just going to use my fingers to kind of, you know, just fan that out. Just be careful you're not too rough on these. I'm going to go into some titanium white. And I'll just put it right there. And a little bit of water. The water is dirty. A little bit more water. Then I can take this. And you're not going to be able to see much. Keep reloading the paint. Reloading the brush, I should say. See how that kind of went down? I'll just go back over it. So when doing this type of technique, again, landscapers are here. I typically would stop, can't, I'm going to lose my momentum. The canvas right now is at the perfect consistency. When you're doing this, you would basically be using your reference material to determine where the motion is in the water. So with this one here, you can have a rock that's here. Let's see the detailed background. You've got a waterfall coming in. You could have rocks here, so the water is, you know, approaching the rocks. And if you were putting rocks in this detail I'm putting here, put everything in. The detail, the ripples, go in at the end. Okay, so now the canvas is starting to dry out. Just gonna do a little bit of a blend here. And the closer, now depending on what's happening around, so with your painting study, the ripples in the water are going to be governed by what's in the water, the flow of the water, and the environment, so high wind. So wind also makes water ripple. If you have somebody fishing, when that lure and the bait hits the water, that's going to create ripples. You're going to have motion. If you've got somebody playing in the water, splashing in the water, that's going to create motion. You've got a heron coming in grabbing a fish, or an eagle coming in and grabbing a fish, that's going to create motion. So right now for the painting study, you're going to intentionally paint water and intentionally paint motion regardless of what's going on. The technique is to learn how to paint calm water with a little bit of motion. Okay, ignore everything else around. So with this now, I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. Right now, super shiny because it's wet. Here we go, so it's all dry now. Now let me just tilt this. You can see that there's just a very light satin finish on this. So if you want your painting study to have a matte finish, there's no reason to add medium when you're doing a painting study in a journal, but you can add a matte medium to this, or a matte, ultra matte varnish. So that's it. So you can see that the color's dried a little bit darker. You can see a little bit of motion right in here. And then from here, all you do is just basically, if you're painting in a journal, let it dry and move on to the next study. But for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put it on my drying rack, let it dry completely, and then I can use the other side for another painting study. Or if I'm just gonna, I've already painted on the other side, I'll just bind this into an existing journal that's ready to go. All right, so I hope that you enjoyed this. And so create your water. If you have a fan brush, just use a fan brush. Apply your gesso with your flat brush. If you don't have a fan brush, take a brush that you've never ever used and use that to create your water. I would really love to see a picture of what you end up creating, because you know, a lot of times we end up buying supplies, you know, as artists we hoard, but we buy supplies just for the fact of what's trendy, what, you know, what's hip, what celebrity artist is using for this, that, and the other. Use something you've never used before, and paint the water. Now, if you've used all your brushes and you don't know what to use, try a palette knife. Try your finger just to see. The whole thing is about experimenting and see what happens. I'm going to be creating a painting study, how to paint an orange using a Q-tip. You know, use all these different things to experiment, because there really are no mistakes in art. To me, mistakes in art is just the universe telling you, try it a different way and see what happens. So, experiment, experiment, experiment. All right, so I'm going to let you go and clean up, get ready for my next painting study. So until I see you in the next video, stay inspired.